So Trump recently attended and finished a whole series of meetings at the Nato summit. And something very different happened there. We didn't see Trump in confrontation mode. He didn't confront all of his NATO allies. He didn't give an evocative speech. He didn't provoke them into becoming scared of what America might do and worried about the unpredictable position of the American president. He didn't even create new headlines about the potential dissolution of NATO. Remember that in his first administration, it's well documented now by John Bolton, who was his national security advisor at the time, that on the way to the NATO summit, he actually revealed to John Bolton that his plan was to go to the summit and announce that America is pulling out of NATO, which would effectively have dissolved it altogether. So that was the level of pandemonium that would occur around Trump's appearances at NATO summits before. This time, things were very different. Trump was amenable. He even seemed friendly. Of course, that was helped by the friendliness of the other members of NATO, trying their best to be on their best behavior. Mark Rutte even referring to him as daddy, trying to do all they could to flatter him and make him feel good and amenable towards them. But actually, even despite that, that doesn't necessarily stop Trump from behaving in a belligerent, unfriendly and disruptive way. And yet he didn't. He seemed to be trying to retain the bonds of alliance that exist at the heart of NATO. Now, this is on the back of just days ago, for the last several weeks, insisting and pleading with Iran and Israel to reach a ceasefire. He kept saying it to the point where he became so exercised about it that on a White House lawn he actually used an expletive when talking about his anger with these two countries for not arriving at a ceasefire. So clearly he did want a ceasefire. He did want the actual warring of these two parties to stop, despite getting involved himself on one side, clearly, which he found hard to resist, given the sort of headlines and attention that it might create. But he railed himself in and then started asking straight away again for a ceasefire. I actually thought that the escalation might be something that Trump himself couldn't resist and end up taking this war into new levels. But he quickly checked himself and started to insist again that all parties engage in a ceasefire. This also builds on the recent calls for a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Of course, he may have expressed his desire to see a ceasefire there, but he did nothing to make that happen. Because in order to make a ceasefire, he would have to have used carrot and stick. He would have to have given carrot to Russia, which he has done, in terms of suggesting he might reduce sanctions. But he also have had to use a stick, suggesting that if they didn't, then actually they would ratchet up sanctions, that actually they would increase the support of military backing to Ukraine. But he didn't do that. So he was pretty amateurish and useless at trying to bring about a ceasefire in Ukraine. But at least he seemed consistently to say that he wanted to do that. So what's going on here? Trump saying that he wants a ceasefire in Ukraine, Trump saying that he wants a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, getting so angry that he's starting to shout expletives at them from the White House lawn, Trump being collegiate and friendly and maintaining the alliances within NATO. What's happening here? Has Trump begun to mature? Is Trump finally settling in to his role as leader of the free world? Is Trump realizing the error of his ways and taking on the true mantle of leader of the free world and realizing the value of the alliances that America has? This is actually something that a number of journalists and commentators have begun to suggest. And the answer is, of course, that none of that is true. This is not a case of Trump suddenly having a Damascene conversion and deciding that what he really wants to do is to make peace because it's the interests of mankind that are at heart his own interests. You see, Trump has actually made clear some time ago what his real interests are. And of course, what we know about Trump is that his real and fundamental interest is always himself. So what is he trying to gain here? Well, he's actually told us. He wants a Nobel Prize. The people around him have been lobbying the Nobel Committee, saying that he should get a Nobel Prize. And why does he want a Nobel Prize? Because Obama won a Nobel Prize. And he cannot stand to be outdone by any of his predecessors. He must win the race of the most peaceful, the most acclaimed US president. And everybody knows that the Nobel Peace Prize is the ultimate award to any politician on the international stage. And he wants one of those. So it's not really about bringing peace to Iran and Israel. It's not about bringing peace to Ukraine, to reducing that conflict and stopping it eventually. It's not even about maintaining NATO as a consistent alliance. It's really about getting something out of this for Trump, and that is the Nobel Prize. Remember, he's driven by his father's philosophy. In the whole world, there are only killers or losers. And a killer is basically the person who does whatever it takes in order to win. And so the whatever it takes can be anything from imprisoning people without due process, shipping them off to foreign countries in order to sort of gain the popularity of the MAGA base, doing cruel and unprecedented things to members of his own population, sending in the Marines to confront US citizens. It could be anything from that to pretending to be the peacemaker, even pretending to be liberal and sort of on the national stage for the right reasons. So he will morph into whatever shape is needed, do whatever is needed, take on whatever mask he needs to in order to win. And winner being killer means that he's prepared to metamorphosize into any shape in order to be that winner who's a killer. And so here he is on the national stage, pretending to be a statesman, pretending to be a peacemaker. But it is just that. It's a pretense. Because it's fundamentally, bottom line, still transactional. It's all about what he can get. And no one ever achieves peace on the basis of really being in it for themselves. There have been great peacemakers in American history. There have been great acts of bringing peace about in American history. Like, for example, the Oslo Accords that Clinton ended up bringing the Palestinian and Israeli leadership together around. Like, for example, the way in which Mitchell, a US senator, went to Ireland and brought the Good Friday Agreement about, which ended the massive conflict, the centuries-old conflict between England, Britain, and Ireland, and disarming the IRA and leading to a sort of peaceful administration in that part of the world. There have been marvelous acts of peace, and in none of those occasions was it fundamentally about what the peace broker could gain out of it. The peace broker was a peace broker because they wanted peace. And American presidents and leaders over time have always managed to fulfill that role, or often managed, not always, but often managed to fulfill that role because they had a genuine interest in mankind, a genuine interest in peace. When you have an American president that doesn't have any of that interest, but instead has an interest of what award they can win, it's never going to work. And so while Trump may put on this chameleon disguise to seem sort of amenable and friendly and generally wanting peace, unfortunately, the reality here is that all of that will crumble as soon as something else attracts his ego, as soon as there's something else to be made and gain out of it, often financial gain, and any truce, any ceasefire, any alliance that he has helped to bolster will crumble overnight when he starts briefing and tweeting and who knows what else he'll throw out there in order to scupper any possibility of peace. This is exactly what happened in Ukraine. He said he wanted a ceasefire, but then all his actions led to the opposite happening. And actually Russia is now bombing Ukraine harder than it's ever done. And Israel is more belligerent than it's ever been. And the NATO is actually more afraid than it's ever been. So this is all hollow. This is not really a peacemaker in the making. This, unfortunately, is a transactional man doing the only thing he knows how to do. Look out for himself and be transactional with everything he does. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that you might consider liking and also commenting in the video. We're creating a beautiful community here of people who are supporting each other through this deeply traumatic time in world history, commenting on each other's comments and giving supportive responses to each other when we're sharing the difficulties that we're going through. So it's a lovely, supportive community we've got here, and I hope you can join us too by liking, making comments and subscribing to the channel as well. I also have a bookstore, russellsbooks.com. I hope you might consider going there, buying some of the books in which I describe some of the psychologies of the people around us and the world around us, and also helping us gain awareness of our own inner worlds too, in a way that will help us navigate this difficult time in world history. I hope you can also consider joining and becoming a member of the channel, where you'll get these ebooks for free as part of that package as well. Finally, I also hope that you consider signing up to my e-newsletters. Whether you become a member or not, that's absolutely worth doing, because that way we can always stay in touch. I'll always keep you updated every few weeks about my content so that you don't miss anything, because let's face it, all of these platforms are currently owned by a very small number of oligarchs. At any point, they can just decide to shut down a channel like mine. So if we stay in touch via this e-newsletter, you'll always be able to link up to whatever I'm doing and whatever content I'm producing. The link is in the description, as well as the description of the channel. Fill up the form and we'll be able to stay in touch long term that way too. I hope you can stay connected. You can become and stay a part of this community so that we can all work to create a better tomorrow together. Thank you.